So many coaches get caught up in looking like they're coaching, filling silence, demonstrating knowledge, really trying hard to show that they're earning their spot, that they're missing the thing that actually can really help build a player. I see this trap constantly, especially with the younger coaches. So, what does the best coaching actually look like? When I was coaching at the NHL level, I'd already found out early on, kind of by accident, where my real skills lied. And it showed right away where I was having the success. And I kind of stuck with this way of coaching my game plan early on. And some of the craziest things people would ask me, about, my techniques or all these different ways that I'm having success with goalies, was actually really nothing to do with hockey itself. It would circle back to hockey and teaching certain things and techniques and whatnot would definitely come into play. But the real big key was my ability to listen. Through that, I had the ability to actually see where they were needing help. And everybody's different. So when you have this skill and actively practice it opens your eyes, man. And you can see so much more of the direction in that individual that you're working with, where you need to go. So when I say that it circles back to the playing ability and teaching the playing stuff, on the ice stuff, it comes back to that, and you definitely help your players, your goalies, with what they're trying to accomplish on the ice. But the listening and understanding the person is so important because everybody's different, right? I often will give examples, and I'll do that for you now, where I'll give you a few examples of different types of personalities because depending on the type of person they are, you may need a totally different tactic on how you approach them. Because at the end of the day, when you use the art of listening and understanding a person, you can kind of understand the approach you need to take. And then once you've developed that part, then you build the trust and that connection, which for me, anyways, in my coaching, was actually the key. And then once you're on the ice, you've developed all this over some time. Now they're hearing you when you're talking about actual stuff on the ice and you're saying, how about we try this? And they'll be way more open to now attacking a certain problem or maybe a change in a technique than if you just go at them hard right off the bat and have your way of coaching, how you want to do things. It might not resonate with goalie A and it might work with goalie B. But if you're listening at the front, at the beginning, and developing that rapport and hearing them, all that coaching stuff on the ice becomes way easier and you'll get way more out of it. The first personality type I'll describe to you is the alpha. And this type of person definitely likes to control a conversation, definitely wants to tell you how they play things, how they like to do things, and are very hard to shift and guide into a different direction, try something new. So the approach, I would often take with someone like that is at first let them guide some of the conversation and hear their points and hear the positive things about maybe the way they're doing something, and don't be super combative right off the bat. And then as I would listen to that person, I would hear some holes or some they would actually answer a lot of questions themselves. And then from there, make a suggestion. Uh, Maybe not even in the first beginning part. Let them do this over time. Let them uh, uh, make suggestions on the drills that they like to do. And then from there, add in, how about we try this? And what when you don't come at them hard, they don't put up a wall, right? But if you have an alpha on an alpha coach versus the player, there's some button heads, and you get nowhere with that. One example of that type of personality, and he's not an alpha in the sense like we butt heads or anything, but very strong and confident in how they did things, and that's when I had Connor Hellebuyck. Awesome guy. When I got him out of UMass Lowell, when I was with Winnipeg, he had a really strong conviction and idea of how he wanted to play. Hadn't been a pro yet, but I didn't come at him like that and say, well, hey, you haven't played a game of pro. Like, this is maybe how you should do something. Definitely didn't come at him like that. We developed a relationship. I heard everything he had to say. And a lot of things I was like, wow, that's an interesting take. And it opened my eyes too, because he definitely was out of my wheelhouse as far as the type of goalie. Like I was as a goalie myself, acrobatics, speedy, diving around, and he was total opposite. But he knew how to stop a puck. So, if you don't use listening in this situation, you can get locked into seeing only how you want someone to play. And it really helped me when I was coaching him uh, to work with a person like that, with that type of personality. The second personality type is more of a self conscious, low confidence type of person. I don't want to say introvert, but that would fit into that category for sure. And this type of person is a total different take. You want to show your own confidence and let that bleed into your conversation. You might have to guide the conversation more. Now, this is a real key where a lot of coaches, especially younger ones, will get caught up in filling that silence and sounding like they're coaching and they're, you know, using that time to help them. Like it always comes from a good place. Coaches wanting to help, right? They want to coach. And when the self conscious person isn't saying much, you try to fill that. Now, you want to try to engage them and say, well, I really want to know your take and your thoughts on this because I kind of need to know kind of what you're thinking in all this so I can help. And you do have to add a little more and guide a little more with this type of person. But then also got to be aware that you want to engage with them and you want them to engage with you. And you have to encourage that. And you slowly start to build their confidence to speak and 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 tell them what and tell you what they're really thinking. But that doesn't happen if you're not hearing them and reading them. So much of what I did was on reading the person, right? I'll give you an example of that type of player. And that was Jack Campbell. Uh, Super ultra talented. And had a heart of gold, a great guy, uh, didn't have outward confidence in himself, would say things to downplay things, very humble, came from a good place. But to develop that balance, I had tons of conversations with him about all kinds of things to help build that relationship. And so much of that came from hearing him and listening to him. Then I knew what direction I felt that I needed to go with him. And you can guide and tailor how you're going to do things a lot more accurately when you're hearing that person. And with him, it was like a massive part of my coaching with him to get him to believe in the things he was doing and how he wanted to play. Because when he came to us in LA, he was, not super strong up here, but also his game, he didn't know himself anymore. And I wanted to bring that version of when he was ultra confident in himself back. And to do that, I had to hear all of the things that were going on with him in his head. And to get that, you have to build that rapport. And it don't happen if you're not listening. It really doesn't. And players in all these categories of personality types, they pick up on it. Even at a young age, young kids, they pick up on when you're not really present and hearing them. They understand. They might not articulate it very well, but they'll shut you out. They'll act like they're listening, but if you get caught in that filling the silence air with coaching talk, they read that. If you ever watch a goalie school or anything, you can see the ones that kind of drift. They're shutting you out. And that leads me to the third personality type. That's the disengaged or the wanderer. This one's interesting because they're not an alpha. They're not an introvert. They might not even have any lack of confidence. And they might not be super overconfident. They're just having a good time. They're there. And it's hard to get their attention. These ones are a real challenge because you want to listen, you want to hear what they have to say, but sometimes they just choose not to speak. And you have to find a way to get that spark and that light bulb to flicker for them. So that's where you have to start engaging yourself, asking questions, the right questions, and asking for answers. And then giving them the stage for a little bit to speak. Sometimes it's not even about being on the ice in a hockey situation. Oftentimes, I can remember talking with someone in the corner or on the ice and speaking about what they did that day and finding that nugget that you can see the flicker in their eyes that interests them. And it might seem like, oh, you're not coaching, and you're not being professional. You're shooting the shit with, becoming friends with the goalies. And I have a whole side story on that with certain upper people that had a problem with that with me because it didn't look like I was coaching. But there was a method to my madness, and there was a purpose to it because it flickered that light for them and made them want to engage. And then you come in the back door from that and then start talking about maybe something that is important in how they're playing or whatever. But there's different ways with all three of those types of personalities that I just brought up, but listening's in all of it. The big question is, why do a lot of coaches not do this enough? And why don't they focus on that enough? And the honest answer, the best one I can think of, is the silence is uncomfortable. That would be probably the most in your face point and reason why I think the listening thing gets pushed on the side. And the other thing would be, the higher level you go, and when you're trying to make it as a coach, just like a player, we all want to ascend and coach at a higher level. And to do that, we often will think that I have to present well. I have to look like I know what I'm doing. And I get it. I've been there. I've seen it with other coaches. I felt it even with myself. But I remember telling my wife when I first started coaching that I'm going to do things the way I felt I would have wanted to be coached as a player. And that was a big thing when I thought about it from a player's perspective. So when I got up to the NHL level, and I remember the first training camps. I remember the first one in Winnipeg. I was like blown away by the professionalism was off the charts, and just there wasn't a minute of space where it wasn't organized or something was happening. It was like boom, 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 boom. And I remember sitting in the corner watching the goalies, and someone, the head coach, yells at me to get the pucks, move them there. I don't even remember exactly what he was saying, but it was just a bark, and I was focused on the goalies, and there were so many moving parts, and I just remember watching all the coaches that had been there a while. Knew they were just, get this ready, do this, and I just was just trying to focus on the goalie. You kind of jump in line, and then after a bit there, I was like, I gotta make sure I don't get lost in this and get focused away from what I want to do here, and that's help them, those two guys. And as I got more experienced and more confident in myself, that I was going to stick to my guns. Like I told my wife at the beginning, I was just going to do things how I felt I should. It was tough to hold that line. I'm not going to lie, because everybody's watching. You want to keep your job and all that. So I can totally understand and see why coaches coming up get caught up in that, because you want to present well. I'm just kind of telling you some honest advice as far as being a really good coach and getting results, that this is something that you should not lose sight of, is all I'm saying. Lastly, I just want to say this skill, it's not a hockey skill. It's not a hockey coaching skill. It's a life skill, actually. It's true in every room, every relationship, every conversation. With this skill and being aware, whether you're fully engaged in hearing that person, it's invaluable, man. It's something that helped me immensely and helps me to this day, especially in my job, the goalie therapist. I do it every day. And I see that flicker of light happens so often because of it. It's an important skill, and I hope you guys make yourself aware of it and try to use it.